All right, we're gonna start. How are you doing, Gurminder? So good to see you.
It's great to see you. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Welcome everyone. This is Shivpreet, and today we have Gurminder with us. Dr. Gurminder Bhogal is a professor of music um, at Wellesley College, and I've known her for over 20 years. I've known her when she was actually finishing her PhD. When I was doing my MBA at Chicago, she was finishing her PhD, and we've been in touch off and on, but more lately. So it's wonderful to be in touch, especially um, when just before the launch of her book. So I'm super excited. Um, the book that she just recently wrote. Um, it's Sikh Kirtan and its journeys. And it's a really amazing book. I've only read the first. There she is. She's showing the book. Um, I've started reading the book. I'm a slow reader, but I'm sort of getting through the first chapter, and so it's so beautifully written. I've been telling her, it's so full of love. Um, Despite Gurminder ji being a sort of a academic, it doesn't read like an academic book. It reads like a very easy to read, easy to understand, easy to enjoy book. Um, of course, it's about Kirtan, so I'm really enjoying it. But today is about her. We're going to talk to her, and we're going to quiz her. And I sent her some of the questions, but I'm gonna ask you questions I haven't sent you, so you have to be be careful there. So before anything, tell us a little bit of a background on you and the book, and then we'll talk about your training and your practice. And welcome.
Sure. Thank you, Shiv, for such a lovely introduction, and good morning to all of you. I can see everybody saying Sat Sri Akal, good morning. It's so good to see you all. And I'm really very grateful to you for sharing this time, this very valuable meeting time with me to learn a little bit about my project. I would say, Shiv, your question is a little bit about my background, right? You asked.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be very brief on that because it's, the least interesting thing. But I'm trained as a classical pianist. I think Kirtan has been in my ears since I was in my mother's womb. I think a lot of you will be able to identify with that. So I think, and I think the power of Kirtan is that it seeps into your consciousness kind of drop by drop over a period of time. And so it was doing that. And then at a certain moment, there was a certain threshold that I had reached, and I was ready to write the book. So that is why it came later in my life after I had completed other publications on French music and painting. So that's really where the first output of my publication was. And I was also performing as a pianist, classical pianist, for a while. And lately, in the last several years, I've been learning Dilruba with my Ustad Surjit Singh, who is a very celebrated and esteemed sarangi player in the Namtari tradition. And I'm very fortunate that he has accepted me as his student. And I learned so much from him and from my vocal teacher, also Dr. Ashwini Purohit, who is based in Maharashtra. So now I'm on that journey. We'll be using this word journey quite a bit, I think, today. But I think the classical training I've had as a pianist, as a musician, has informed the way I think about music. But Kirtan has always informed the way I think about music and sound and my body and my consciousness. And I really value the academic training that I've had because it allows me to think about things from many different standpoints and perspectives. And through a variety of critical lenses as well, and I think that's important. So that's a little bit about my background, but I want to say, just to come back to a point that Shiv made, which is that this session isn't about me, really, it's about all of you and about what you have taken away from Sikh Kirtan and its journeys, because that is really what I want to learn about today.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, we still want to learn a little bit more about you, so I'm gonna ask you questions. Um, and because some of the people who might be seeing this haven't seen you in action, and I have a little bit. One, you play the piano you absolutely gorgeously. I was just at Gurminder's home a couple of months ago, and she has a beautiful grand piano at home, and she played it for me. And she plays professionally as well, but not as much. She does. She teaches at the Gurdwara. She does seva at the Gurdwara and teaches Dilruba. So there's that aspect of her. But then I was also super impressed with her class. Tell us about your class and what kind of students they come to your class and what they learn in this class, because I was blown by the curriculum that you had and the kind of teaching that you do and the kind of things that you're teaching these kids about Kirtan and other things as well.
Yeah. Well, I teach at Wellesley College in Wellesley, Massachusetts. It's a liberal arts college, a women's liberal arts college, and my students are all undergraduates. And Shiv came to our class. The course was called Healing Minds and Bodies Through Music, and I knew that Shiv had to be a part of this. So it was really great that he visited, and the students are, they're all wonderful, actually. They're very versatile, flexible thinkers, and it's a liberal arts curriculum, so they think very broadly across several different disciplines. And they are curious and they want to make connections between very different things. So you end up asking kind of impossible questions sometimes and exploring answers to those. But in this course in particular, Kirtan came in a unit where we were talking about healing sound, music, and South Asia. And Shiv, of course, has a lot to say on that topic. And so he was bringing his expertise through Shabad and through interpretation of Shabad into our discussion, and students loved it. And we all learned so much from that experience. And I think, Shiv, you were also connecting Shabad with Rag to some extent also. So I remember that discussion was really, really quite uplifting. But it's really an exploration for everybody because, I think many different disciplines explore the connection between music, healing, and sound. So it's cross-cultural, through Asia, through various communities of South America, through Africa. So I try to bring in lots of different perspectives. And we try to understand through time what that connection was, how we've lost it in certain areas, but how in the medical sciences right now in particular, especially for research into Alzheimer's, dementia, and these age-related diseases of the brain, how music and sound are so central to well-being and memory enhancement and just, being able to get through your life. So we learned a lot from medical professionals as well as from musicians. It was a fun course. I wish you all could have been there.
It was so much fun. The kids were so they knew so much, and I could tell that from the questioning. They were at one point in my talk with them, they were asking me questions, and they were just so well informed about music, but about Kirtan specifically. So it was super impressive, and I had such a fun time. Um, at this point, I'm going to show you guys the book because I want to cover that. Here is the introduction on the book and the links for buying it, for downloading it. I've also pasted a link on the chat, and you guys can read this and download the book right there. You can obviously buy it as well. And there's a lot of information about the book and just some summary on the book right there. And so you can use this. I'm going to ask a few questions of Gurminder at this point, and after maybe 2 or 3 questions, I will open the call to anyone else who wants to ask questions. If you want to ask questions by chat, you can feel free to do that. You can also ask Prernaji, who's there. She's one of the moderators. She can join you on video in the call if that's how you want to ask the question. So that's how we'll do that. But
Shiv, can I just add a few links because I have a discount code for buying the book?
Yes.
And so if I can just add,
just
I'm
add
just
it
going to
on
add
the
something here.
add
So,
it here. Perfect.
So you can buy the book in print through Amazon or using the discount from the Chicago website. And I should also mention there is an accompanying website for the book. So all the Shabad recordings, audio, video, lots of Sikh art, everything is on that accompanying website. So please, the links that I've added in the chat, please take a look at those and let me know what you think also.
So let me show you the website. Let's see if I can share this. I can. So this is the website, right? Looks gorgeous. So that link is right there as well. Anyhow, because we have you right here, let me start with the questions, and then, like I said, if you guys have any questions, start putting it on the chat, and then we will go from there. So my first question, why did you call this Journeys? What kind of journeys does it have? Musical, geographic, spiritual, technological? Why did you call it Journeys, and what do you feel, what kind of journey is sort of central to this book, and how do these journeys interplay?
Yeah, great question. Shiv, I think Prernaji put something in the chat about adding the links to the Circle app. Also, yeah, I just saw that. Journeys, I think a lot of the book was written, I think, in a feeling of Sahaj. So the title of Journeys came to me in a very easeful way. And of course, Journeys is embedded into the Sikh consciousness, because when we learn about Sikhi, when we learn about the Gurus, often the starting point is Guru Nanak and Bhai Mardana and their Udasi. So these are journeys that they took. And one of the things that we learn about these Udasi is all the amazing places that they travel to by foot. Right, at a time, long distances by foot, difficult terrains, difficult climates. But also the Rabab was the third companion in these journeys. So I started off historically thinking about those journeys. Then I was thinking about Sikhs today. We're all living many of us are living in places where we are pretty far from where Sikhi originated. There is a very large Sikh diaspora. So many of us have been on a journey through several generations. So my family has been in Kenya for 4 generations. My great-grandfather, Father Hari Singh Channa, went there. And, there's been 4 generations now in Kenya. And there are many other Sikhs I've met who have been in Japan for so long, for instance, or South Africa, or, many other parts of the world, Thailand. So the journeys are, in a sense, literal, but they're also, as you've said, spiritual. They're also metaphorical. They're also, as a scholar, as the whole understanding of the term Sikh is not only to be a disciple, but a disciple in learning. So that journey was also about learning and continuing to learn. There's no upper point to how much one can know, of course. So that journey is also one of discovery. And so many different ways of thinking about journey, in all the ways, Shiv, that you've already said. But for the book, these are the things that I was thinking about. And then when we're on these different kinds of journeys and Kirtan is with us in these journeys, it's also changing in response to the environment. It's also molding us in turn. So Kirtan and sound, that sonic dimension, is a very important companion in these journeys. And that's something that I wanted to highlight.
Amazing. So here's a question from Sarvjit ji, and I've highlighted it here. He says, "Why a book on this subject, and what was your quest to write a book on this specifically?" And I'm glad Sarvjit asked this question, because I wouldn't have, because I sort of know it, some of it, but I feel like I would have missed the real answer because I probably don't know it.
Yeah. Well, I think, Shiv, starting out from where you initiated the discussion today, which is that I've always known and loved Sikh Kirtan because it was always in my environment. Even when I was learning about Western classical music, there was always Kirtan playing somewhere in my house, So it was always there. So I always knew it. And I think actually the quest to write a book on this is really a great question. I think it comes from, there were so many discussions in my field, my primary field of musicology, Western musicology, and people were asking questions about sound, about consciousness, about body. And I was thinking, actually, Gurbani has answered all of these questions. And it's all there, and I kind of knew it. So I began exploring it, understanding for myself. And then I was thinking, well, I would now like to share this. And it was really the way that my field was shifting and was ready, in a certain sense, to explore these kinds of ideas, because consciousness, metaphysics, these things have been a little bit on the fringe in the Western Academy. They discuss it in relation to the ancient Greeks and ancient cultures, but then people kind of just don't want to talk about it much because it conflicts, in a sense, with scientific rationalism. And so I was compelled to get back in touch with that line of thinking because I saw a lack in the Western Academy around these ideas and how people were exploring them. And I wanted to offer the perspective of Sikh Kirtan, which I think is so nuanced in its thinking. The practice of Kirtan and the way the Gurus and Bhagats have talked about Kirat in Gurbani, so nuanced, so sophisticated, so simple yet so sophisticated. And I wanted to share that.
That's beautiful. I feel like I feel this is so true. There is very little information, and that's why we do kirtan also, and I do it in new ways for the same reason. Is to there's so much joy in kirtan. There's so much joy, and there's so little known about kirtan. When you go out there in the Western society, there's so little known, and so amazing that such a a great publisher like a University of Chicago Press, it doesn't pick up a book from, anywhere, would publish something. So it must have been really tough to sort of talk to them and get this published from them. Tell us a little about that kind of journey. How did you get such a great publisher to publish this? And then also, notice everyone should notice that there is, even though you can buy this book, and I bought a couple of copies of the book for myself and for friends, but she also has a link for a free download. And universities and presses don't like that. I mean, when you give the book for free, a lot of people won't buy it. They will just get the book for free. So I assume the university has to be paid somehow. And how did that go about? How did you make them make the book free?
These are great questions, Shiv. So just to start that, the University of Chicago Press has a really wonderful series called Studies in Ethnomusicology. I love the books. I've been reading them forever, and they're really great. And it was always my dream. I was thinking for this to belong there. And this actually is the first book, Sikh Kirtan and its Journeys, is the first book published in English by a North American university press. So I think that when I took it to Chicago, I took it to this series, and this is just life's journeys. Life has its own cycles, right? As we all know. So the series editor was my professor from 20 odd years ago. And I had written a paper on Bhai Avtar Singh and Bhai Gurcharan Singh for a seminar that he taught. This was when, over 20 years ago. And he was so supportive and so intrigued. So I knew instinctively where I wanted to take the book. I took it to him. And he was really happy. And then the other people on the editorial board were students in my class at that time, 20 plus years ago. They used to sit next to me. And they used to say, you have to do this work. So again, over 20 years later, when the time was right, they were all there. The three of them were there to receive the project. And I'm so grateful to them and to the University of Chicago Press, because they've been very, very supportive. And my editor, Molly McPhee, has been very, very supportive, so very grateful. And then I wanted to make it free, so I don't make money from this book, but I really wanted people to read it. Reading in this day and age is an effort. We live in a digital age, but we must continue to learn. There are many ways to learn. I've learned so much from YouTube lectures, from audiobooks, from speaking to people, of course. But sometimes sitting with a book is a way I can go really deep and really understand something. So I knew that I wanted to write this book, and I wanted it to be within the reach of everybody. So accessibility was very important to me. I'd visited libraries in India that were in a very sad state, to be very honest with you. So I knew people were not going to a library to borrow the book, and I knew libraries could not necessarily afford to buy the book. So I said, I really want people to read this across the world, and the way to do it is for it to be free. So I was raising money, and I applied to several grants, and I was very lucky that the Uboy Foundation gave me a grant, Wellesley College gave me a grant, and I received a couple of other grants, one from the American Musicological Society, and they all came together and wanted to support this as an open access project so that people can read the book for free. Reading it digitally is somehow, it's great for students, it's great for people who want to click on the links immediately, so that's very convenient. But I'm old-fashioned, and I still like to hold a book. I want to feel it in my hands, and I like to read like that. So this is also quite affordably priced, but I would say that, yeah, I really, it was an accessibility issue, Shiv, at the end of the day.
So, I want to thank you and namaskar to you for all the hard work that goes behind making a book. First, spending 20 years writing the book, and then going out of your way to make it free and make it accessible and make it economical for people to actually be able to afford it. Because I know I want to buy some books that university presses here in California have published on Sikhi, on Guru Har Rai Ji, for instance. There's a book, and those books are $200, $300, $400. Oh my goodness. And you really want to read those books because an academic has spent 10, 20 years researching the topic and really in depth going through that. So anyways, I'm really, really grateful for having this kind of effort put, not in just writing the book, which was a lot of work, but also making it available to Sikhs. There's a lot of questions. I'm going to go over them, but I want to show you glimpses from the book as we go on. The next question I'm going to spotlight is Ishmeet. He says, did Guru Nanak learn all the rags through formal training? Is this something that you've done research on? And as you talk about that, I'm going to share part of this book. You see this, I think this is in the beginning of the book. There is a picture of Sikh Ragis, Sikh Ragi Jatha in Nairobi in 1942. Look at how beautiful this is. I want to be in this Jatha and be singing with them. This is so gorgeous. And we'll hear some stories about Nairobi from Gurminder also, because she has a background from there. Stories about Nairobi, and what do you think about Guru Nanak? Did he learn rags through formal training? What's your opinion?
Shiv, I want to hear your opinion on this question too, okay?
Sure.
My understanding, and then I must defer to Shiv on this also, my understanding at that time, there was nothing notated. It was starting to be notated in what I can tell, 15th, 16th centuries. Maybe there was a little bit of notation earlier to that in terms of sargam notation. But everything was oral. So I think again, I do not know, but my informed speculation to some extent is that Guru Nanak must have heard the fakirs and the jogis and the mirasis singing compositions in various rag. And, there are certain rag that were very much a part of bhakti devotion. So Ramkali, for instance, is one such popular rag that's used a lot in devotional bhajan of the time. And I think that, these were in Guruji's ears. And so I think a lot of the learning was oral, through listening. So that is what I understand as formal training, is kind of osmosis through the environment, which is the ideal way to learn. Actually, it's very difficult for me as someone in the Western classical tradition. We read music on scores. So, but actually, a way to learn music where it's really deep and just penetrates you and stays with you lifelong is really this way. Yeah, oral training. Shiv, what is your response? What do you think?
So I had the fortune of learning music under the Guru Shishya Parampara with Pandit Raghunath Prasanna. So I've learned music in the way that has been taught in India for generations. I believe that's how it was taught. And how you would learn is you would really have to be interested in the topic. My guru, I would go to my guru every day. And it was not like, okay, today I'm going to teach you Bhairav and today I'm going to teach you Bilaval. He didn't have time. He was playing his own thing. He was doing his riyaz, and he was, he had to be the best, whatever player he was, Shehnai or flute or whatever. he needed to perform at the radio station. He had to do this. And he was preparing for a concert that was happening in 2 months with the president of India, right? And then he would be practicing. And then we would just sit and watch him practice and listen to him and practice with him. And he would say, okay, you know, and we would see the rigor and that went into practicing one raga for 6 months, 9 months, a year. And that's what you would learn one raga for a year, and it had nothing to do with you. It was not like you had come into the class and so he had to teach you Yaman because that's an easy rag. It was whatever he was learning, you learned by osmosis. And I think this is sort of more experiential learning. Guru Nanak learned rags. Remember that story of Guru Nanak giving 20 rupees to the sadhus and they had the food. This is how they learned music. It was in the company of the saints. The other people who had learned from people who were interested in music. They would sit down with them. They would dine with them. They would spend time with them. If Guru Nanak was here today, unfortunately, he'd be an expert on social media. He would have figured it out. He would have, he would be, that's what he would be doing. That's what we're doing these days. But at that time, they didn't have a lot of these things, and they had more time to look at the stars and look at the look at music. So I'm glad that's the kind of time they spent. But it's really, like Gurminder's chosen to spend so much of her time, of her life, of her breath on, doing research on this topic. And now we have this beautiful book. And just like just like Gurminder spent time on researching a topic, Guru Nanak would spend time on each rag. He spent a year on Ramkali. He spent a year he created Rag Asa because, he went to some place, he heard some folk tune and he loved it. And he was like, wow, I'm going to formalize this. So that's how I think it happened. Let's go back to you. I'm going to highlight Prerna ji's question next. She says, please tell us what you would like to tell the listener in a brief summary of your aha moments you'd like to share with the world. So aha moments that happened while you were writing the book, because writing the book must have been a journey by itself. You must have learned so much while you were in the process. Maybe talk about 2 or 3 of the moments where you were like, wow, this is amazing.
Just to clarify though, Prernaji is asking about the writing process for sure, as opposed to moments in the book that are aha moments for me.
We can do both. Let's start about perhaps just aha moments and then the writing aha moments.
Oh.
Or whichever one you want to cover first, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure about aha moments during the writing because it was such a slow and measured kind of daily process, so I'm not sure if even now holding the book in my hands, I remind myself this should be an aha moment, but I'm not sure I've had that yet. But there were a few passages that when I looked at them again, and I felt that I was inspired to write those passages, and I wouldn't mind sharing those with you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's great. If you remember those passages, we can even bring them
I
up.
have it. I have
Okay.
it here.
Okay.
Actually, I have it in a PowerPoint. Is there a way for me to share
You
it?
can share. Yeah, there's a share button right there.
Okay, so I might just pull it up from the PowerPoint for you.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And then I'll find it. There were a few moments, but I think now that we've talked about a few things, maybe I'll read a couple of things if it's okay,
Yeah.
because I think so. Allowed to
Are you
share
able to share?
window.
Are you able to share this, or do you?
Yeah, allowed to
Okay.
share screen. Is that what I need to do? Or share window? Share screen.
Share screen.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, no, that doesn't look right. Does that look okay?
No, that doesn't look right.
Yeah, okay. That
That's
does not look right.
there's.
Hold on. I understand what I've.
I
Okay,
think you
allowed
have
to.
to get the screen by itself and then share that screen.
Got it. Got it. So this is,
Yeah. Perfect. Awesome.
yeah, this is something that was really helpful to me. It was an aha moment because it kind of, for me, condensed what I needed to understand about Kirtan from Gurbani, which is that firstly, hearing and offering Kirtan. I don't talk about playing Kirtan or performing Kirtan. I tend to talk about offering Kirtan is a means to feeling physically healthy. And Gurbani talks a lot about Kirtan removing disease. Mentally healthy, Kirtan removes anxiety. Spiritually uplifted, Kirtan raises one's consciousness by amplifying inner vibration. Environmentally attuned, devotees are encouraged to perceive the Kirtan offered by nature, organic and non organic matter, the elements, and the cosmos. And communally connected, Kirtan orients the corporeal vibration of a community towards building social bonds and promoting service, which improves the well-being of all. This is the first paragraph of my introduction. I felt this was a bit of an aha, and then I wanted to emphasize that this unique conception of devotional music points to a tradition where social bonds are forged through the force of amplified corporeal vibration that is catalyzed by Kirtan. This experience of Kirtan stands at a distance from the realm of aesthetics and an experience of ras or rasa as facilitating individual bliss. So this is something that's different to the Hindustani classical tradition, because in the Hindustani classical tradition, we talk a lot about the rasas, the 9 rasas, and Kirtan is not about the 9 rasas, because then it becomes performance and there is an aesthetic dimension, but it's more about taking you through the aesthetic dimension to something much deeper.
I love that word. I'm offering kirtan versus performing. I hate the word performing kirtan. I usually object, and I did kirtan at a university in Southern California, and the dean of the college went up and said, "Oh, now Shivpreet Singh ji is going to perform kirtan." I felt so bad correcting her. But in the end, I did explain, performance is outward and kirtan is inward, and we do kirtan karya janda hai, and even more kirtan ho reha hunda hai. Kirtan is happening, so the kirtan is something that is done to you rather than you doing the kirtan. But I love this offering, but I would generally I would never use the word offering, because it feels a little bit of, oh, let me offer you a gift. Because I feel there's ego in that word, a slight bit of ego. Okay, but people do seva, and I don't even feel like the seva is something that you do outwardly. Seva is inward. But it's just so much better than performing. Offering kirtan is so much better, but I have to think about it. Anyways, let's move on to a question from Sumit ji. He says, curious to know why in Kali Yuga kirtan is pradhana, and you talked about it in your quote a little bit. I believe Satguru Guru Nanak ji believed that the way to connect to Almighty was through kirtan. So if you can talk about that, and
Yeah.
perhaps you can also talk about how you this is, we sort of feel this to be true, and how do you say that to a Western audience? Because we I want to be able to do that. Other people here who do kirtan want to share this kirtan. How do we tell people this without sounding too preachy?
Yeah. No, very good question, very good point. I really think that the paragraph I just read out to you, the first paragraph of the
Yeah.
introduction, answers this question. Because part of it is we want to feel healthy, we want to feel happy, we want to feel mentally balanced and well, and we want to feel in tune with our environment, and we want to feel a part of this world. We want to feel rooted in this world, and we want to ensure that there's always a state of balance in this world and in the way that we move through this world. Always a state of harmony, always a state of balance. So I think that I try to get at that in that paragraph. There's also a couple of other ones like that, dotted here and there throughout the book. But I think that Gurujis and Bhagats knew that Kirtan is Pradhana because of the way that, as we're saying, it's like an inner process. It repairs you, it balances you, it orients you from the inside. And that is why it is really elevated in this way. Because this is really the power of sound to not only impact the physical body, but also the consciousness. And that inflects how you see and you engage with everything around you and everyone around you and every entity, material, as I said, material, immaterial. And I think Prernaji was talking about the stanzas of Japji Sahib. And that's very important too. And I talk about that in my book. In the first chapter, there is a section called Listening Expansively, because there Guru Nanak is asking us to listen expansively. And by that I mean not just to Kirtan as music, but beyond that, to everything that is offering praise, that is engaged in Kirtan, So I think that awareness is always important, and that is a key part of what Sumit ji is saying about Kalyug mein Kirtan Pardana. And that's a very important part of this.
Right. So, Kalyug mein Kirtan Pradhana, there are two words there, and rightfully Sarah asked, what does Pradhana means? Pradhana means supreme, and Kalyug is the time that we're living in. But let me offer a couple of things that how I've understood these lines. Kalyug is a dark time in your life. It doesn't mean an age or like, oh, there was a Satyug and now there's Kalyug. The Satyug and Kalyug can be right here now. If you're doing Kirtan, it is Satyug. And Pradhana means supreme. So, this question is asked of all spiritual leaders. Hey, what is the best thing I can do right now? Right? Tell me what is the best thing? And this line from the Gurbani says, hey, the best thing to do right now is Kirtan. And then now we have to go back to what is the definition of Kirtan, and let me offer a quick definition. And then I'll go back to you, Gurminder, and ask you what you think the definition of Kirtan is. To me, definition of Kirtan is what Guru Nanak so beautifully explains in Japji Sahib, the longest body, where he says, you can be in presence of God. So dar keha, so ghar keha, jit be sarv samale. Which is that house, which is that door where you're sitting? And then he names all the elements. Gavan tudno pavan pani besantar gave rajadam. And then he lists everything. He starts from the elements, pavan, pani, water, air. Everything he says is singing. And then he goes on, and the list goes on, and it expands to the planets and the system. So he started from the elements, the smallest thing in the world, to the biggest thing in the world, the planets and the universe. And he says, tell me what is not singing. And so, he answers the question, what is the house where God lives? He says God lives everywhere, from the elements to the universe, and everything is singing. And the recognition of that singing is kirtan. Gurminderji, what is your definition?
Hor kete gavan se machitna avan. So he's actually, I find it very modest at that moment, because he's kind of
Yeah.
saying, I find there are so many more singing entities. I kind of cannot possibly count and list them all. And this is that cosmological expansive listening that I talk about in the chapter 1. It's so beautifully put. It's this moment of interruption in his own revelation that, hang on, there's so much more. Even I cannot grasp how much more there is. I'm missing something. But yeah, absolutely right that it's that ghar kar, meaning body, but also home. And I think that that is also pointing to this sense of music in the body, but also being connected to the reverberation or vibration outside of the body, and trying to create that balance between the two.
Yeah. Ghar is a really important topic. So while we are on that, and ghar can mean so many things. It can mean our heart, it can mean our souls, it can mean our bodies, it can mean the house we're living in, it can mean the earth, it can mean the universe, it can mean ghar is everything. Like and so ghar keha, so dar keha, so ghar keha, jit besar. So Guru Nanak's definition of ghar, and then how the houses of philosophies are ghar. Chhe ghar, chhe gur, chhe updes. So there's so many houses, and then we used to have houses in our schools where you would you were in 6 different houses in the school. You have houses of philosophies. You have training centers. So house is a big topic, but there is a certain house also that is mentioned on the top of some shabads, right? Malla so and ghar pehla or ghar duja, or ghar fifth or second. While we are on the ghar topic, what is your current thinking on what that ghar means?
Page 45. I will just read it out to you. It's a few sentences.
Please, please.
Despite my long research on this topic, the meaning of ghar evades me. And I tend to side with Gurnam Singh, who claims ghar is a mystery, and it has yet to be decided whether it denotes tal or grammarchana, the intervallic structure, or, I say, might I add, something else. So this is maybe a section that people will be irritated with me about, but honestly, you have to trust me, I've looked far and wide for ghar, and I think unless somebody comes to me with very old manuscripts and says, Gurminder, here, look through these, see what you can extrapolate about ghar, when it started to be used in the manuscripts. And I mean, we have to do that vital study, and because that is really the key to understanding what ghar means. Right now, I do not buy any theory, I'm afraid. So I think if anybody out there has the power to digitize manuscripts or get them digitized and made them publicly available, please do that work, because that is the key to understanding ghar, I think, lies in manuscript study.
So I think that's a separate topic that perhaps I should talk to you about. So I've looked into this as well, and I've actually found a reasonable explanation that is beyond the tal and the just having to do with any musicality. It has to do with phraseology, and I don't know if you've heard that. You've heard that.
Yeah, there's a book about that. It's hard to sustain that theory because you have 17 ghar.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very
That's
difficult.
where that theory.
Yes, and the other issue is that you have 17 ghar, and there's nothing to tell us that there were only 17 ghar. How many more are there? What is the range here?
Right.
Could there be 20, 25, 100? We don't know. So.
Right. Excellent. Let's go on to a question that we can look and answer versus gun. Um, this is Sarah, one of our beloved members in the group. She says, I'm European. I've only come into the contact with the art of Kirtan about 2.5 years ago. What do you think someone like me needs to know about Kirtan that we might not learn easily because we are not born in this culture? And you deal with this all the time. You have the kids in our class were all kinds of backgrounds. There were maybe one Indian among the students that you had
Yeah,
in
I
the
had
group that I saw.
two Carnatic musicians in the group. Yeah, it's such. Sarah, thank you so much. Um, what a wonderful question. What can I say? Because for me, it's it's an assumption that I make. So it's so interesting to think about your question. Um, I would say the connection is always through Shabad, and I would say go slow. Because like Shiv, the work that he does is sometimes, he's fixating on a word for a long, long period of time, or a tuk, or a line, a phrase. And the more perspective that you see that phrase, that line, that tuk from, the more you can extrapolate, the more essence you can extract from this. So I think that, really trying to connect with the Shabad, the composition, is maybe for me, the most important first step. And I say that because my first connection with Kirtan was really through the Kirtan of Bhai Harjinder Singh Srinagar Wale, who does a style of Kirtan called Nirol Kirtan. So it's not what I would say complicated rag kirtan. There's nothing virtuosic. It's very simple. He will just repeat one phrase, one line at a time in a very peaceful way. But what he does, and I think this similar to Shiv's style and a few other people I talk about in my chapter 6, is that through that repetition and through really urging us to reflect on the Shabad, you build a very personal connection. And I think Kirtan is ultimately about every individual. The tug of Kirtan on every individual has to come from that very personal connection, so that, you can speak with the Guru in a very personal and direct way through Kirtan and through your meditation, through your reflection. So I said go slow, and I think Shiv in the chat has echoed me, go slow. I have a category called slow Kirtan, and I talk about that in chapter 6. And Shiv, for me, I don't know if you would agree, Shiv, but for me, what I have enjoyed about your Kirtan is the slow Kirtan. Like, there's the slow food culture, and slow has come up in so many different contexts in Western European ideas about how to live life. But I think slow Kirtan is also very effective.
I wouldn't necessarily call it slow. I would maybe call it impatient Kirtan. or Sahaj Kirtan. The Kirtan that was done, and this is a whole 2-hour discussion. We used to have Drupad, that's how Kirtan was done. And if you really do Drupads again, you take that one phrase and you repeat it again and again and again and again. You see that in a Drupad. You don't see that in a Khayal. That's how Kirtan is done now. And so, sometimes people complain, oh, Bhai Harjinder Singh, he's doing all this filmy Kirtan, and, you listen to him more than the folks who are doing classical Kirtan. This is the problem, is the classical Kirtaniyas of our age are primarily doing the Khayali Kirtan. We've lost the Drupadi Kirtan that was done in Rag. So actually, if you look at some of the stuff that I do, even though it's modern instrumentation and whatnot, it follows the Drupad style, and it repeats certain words. And if you notice, I either do that repetitive in live, or I'll focus on doing the entire Shabad very quickly so I can repeat one word. Ek inka. That's the philosophy. Anyways, this is the point where I'd like to see if there's someone who wants to join us, show your face. You could just join us and be here. If you want, you don't necessarily have to ask questions, but if you want to ask questions and join us here, please do that. I have so many questions of Gurminder. I don't think we're gonna ever reach an end to this call. But let me ask you about the musicians, because in the end of the book there are about 6 musicians, and I'm so grateful to be included among those. What did you learn from those musicians? Tell us a little about some of these musicians, and what were your learnings, and what were some of the surprises there?
Yeah, I would say one of the big surprises was that I ended up having very extensive conversations with an audio engineer, Devinder Sheena. So he was so interesting in that he helped me understand Kirtan has a very specific acoustics, the Sikh sound that I talk about in that chapter. So he is the mastermind, if you will, behind crafting a Sikh acoustics. He works with a lot of famous Kirtaniye in picking microphones, in helping them use technology to create the sound that they want with the right amount of reverb and all these kinds of things. So I was really quite amazed by his conversation, and then he led me to Tarun Kaur, who is UK based and does a lot of I would say like pop style Kirtan. And Shiv, you were always on my list, so I was always going to find you. And then Veer Manpreet Singh, I was thinking about his Kirtan for a long time, because I think he was really the first person to do this healing sessions, as he calls it, over several hours. And again, taking a tuk or taking just a very small segment of Shabad and really doing that very deep reflection. And Jasleen Kaur is somebody who I discovered recently on YouTube. She was one of my YouTube, I would say just somebody who I really followed very closely, and his voice I love. And so she and I talked, and I wanted to learn more about how she used technology and her journey. And she worked very closely with Principal Sukhwant Singh, who is very much attuned to Gurmat Sangeet and the more rag-based style. And then there's also a wonderful platform. Shiv, you also asked me questions about platforms called Kirtan Studio, based in Thailand, Singapore, and then creating a studio ambience for Kirtan. That is bringing Kirtan into more of a modern look. It looks and feels very contemporary. For trying to grab the younger generation through very high quality sound and video, bringing traditional instruments with modern instruments. So I learned also so much from Painirmal Singh Ji Pugliwale. So it's a wonderful group of people, and I really hope that if you read one section of the book, I would say the 2 sections, the intro and chapter 6, would be great, because you'll really see the full spectrum in just that.
Yeah, I've really loved the introduction, and I've also I haven't read chapter 6 yet, but I will very soon.
You're in chapter 6. You have to read it.
Yeah, I have to read it. I keep telling her I'm scared of reading what she wrote about me, but then she reminds me, I actually showed you what I wrote. You read it. Sarabji ji, welcome, and Sanjog ji, welcome. Sarabjit ji, you had questions about Rabab, and let's talk about instruments. Sarabjit ji is from Delhi, and he plays the Rabab. He's also interested in all kinds of instruments. He writes poetry, beautiful, beautiful poetry. He makes videos. So it's great to have you here, Sarabjit ji. Go ahead.
Uh, Thank you so much. Such a pleasure. In fact, I just looked at the book, just glanced it, looked at Taryn Kaur there, and you'll have to believe me, we're just doing a Chopai Sahib in the Gurdwara Sahib. We just were teaching kids today, and I took one of her composition which she has done on Chopai Sahib, which we are making kids to perform on 20th from Taran. So I just told my wife, wow, we're just doing Taran Kaur today, and the Taran Kaur is in the book, you know?
That's
And
wonderful.
that goes like Hamri karo haath de raja puran hoye chit ki. Very beautifully done by her. I just took that today. They were asking us that what should we do? Two, three questions. Number one, uh, you know, uh, you talked about healing with music, right? This is something which we hear. I want to hear your personal experience around it. How is it, what is your personal feel of it? Because I feel the same, but I want to hear what you have got out of this part of it. The second was Dilruba learning. I'm very happy that you learned Dilruba from a pianist to this thing, and I do a lot of instruments. So was Dilruba a byproduct of your getting into this book? Because then it's the Tanti Saas as they call it, the Saas of it. And this last one more, which I wanna offer my services, if any, because I was looking at your videos today, a bit of it, and the kind of work you do. So, if any way, if Inka, as Shivji very nicely puts it, Shippreet Virji does it. So if there's any way some of us sitting here could be part of any seva, happy. Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
my yeah.
That I'm so grateful. Thank you so much, first of all. That's really so kind of you, Sir Prithvi. I appreciate that. I will take you up, I'm sure. Because I just opened an Instagram account last week, but I don't even remember I have it, or I don't even know how to use it. So I will definitely ask people who are more tech savvy than me for advice on how to do even simple things. Dilruba learning, I played the violin for many, many years. And then I stopped, and then I realized that I think the preparation of holding a bow and playing a bow was really for Dilruba and later in my life. So uh, I, that was not the impetus for the book. The book was happening before, but the Dilruba is a beautiful instrument, and I really am so, as I said, very fortunate that I have such an amazing Ustadji to teach me and to learn from. The first question, I'm so happy to hear about Tarunkor's Chopai Sahib. That's wonderful, wonderful for the students.
Yeah.
Really great. And you were asking about the healing issue. I mean, I would say being a professional musician, you spend many hours of the day practicing in an ideal world. So you are in flow for at least a good 4 hours of the day if people leave you alone and let you do your riyas and you're practicing. And I think that is healing. That in itself, when you're in flow and you're in that state, most musicians will be in some kind of trance or sahaj, and that is a very healing thing. And then when you exit from that state, you enter the real world of traffic, noise, this, that, kids asking, then life begins. But at that moment, so that's why I think this is another thing about Guru Simple that's saying Kirtan, because that practice in itself, finding that time for yourself in your community, is healing and transformative. And I think the transformative thing is very key to this cycle that we have, because all the gurus say this as well, that use this feeling that you get, the high feeling you get from kirtan, and put it into seva, and then recite, meditate, reflect, do kirtan, and then it's that cycle. This is what the daily feeling should be, to keep oneself well, mentally, but also physically. So that's what I try. I try to find time to practice every day because I think that's when I feel my best.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah. Shivpreet Viji, thank you so much for what you're doing. Last week you got another author. So we have that book to read. You got another author now, you know, who's talking about Sikh history. Fantastic. This is
And we're gonna be experts on this book, Gurminderji, in 6 months, and we're gonna invite you back for then ask you the tough questions.
I
Right
just
now,
said,
you're having it easy right now because we're still trying to understand what's going on.
I was just about to say, I'm going to come back and I'm going to give you all an exam next time I come back. Okay. Shiv, you're tested on chapter 6. Okay, Shiv, so be ready.
Yes, yes. I do want you to read one section of the book, and
Yeah.
or I can read it. The first paragraph of the epilogue.
Yes, I
I
have
think
that.
I love that. So after she's written the book, she's preparing for it to get published, and she's writing this. Just see what she says and how she says it. I read that, and I was like, I fell in love with Gurminder and her book again. So please read that for us.
I will do. I will share the screen. And I will just say before I read it, you have to believe me that this is moment to moment the absolute truth of what happened that morning. So I just want you to know that I'm sharing a real life. I couldn't believe it actually, but this is what it means to do this work. Okay. Let me share my screen again.
You can, or I can share it, and you can just read it. I'll share it.
Yeah. Can you see?
Yeah, we can see.
This is the paragraph that you were
No.
thinking?
This is not the paragraph. I'm thinking of
The next one.
as I write I
Yes.
write my closing reflections.
Got it. That one. That's here too. Give me a sec. Let's stop sharing.
And I can share it, and you could just. So I have it here. Look, I have it from the book.
I have it here too.
So if you can just read for
Yep.
us, I'm sharing it.
Yes. Okay. As I write my closing reflections on Vaisakhi 2024, a spring festival that commemorates the founding of the Sikh community, Khalsa Panth, under the leadership of Guru Gobind Singh, I am reminded of the musical and poetic prowess of the 10th Guru, his vivid, multilingual, heart-stirring Bani and writings, as well as the musical instruments that were played in his court, the taus, tanpura, jori, pakhawaj, and many more. The same morning, I receive a WhatsApp message from Veermanpreet Singh telling me that his new track, Hey Guru Nanak, a collaboration with the young Australian singer-guitarist Rohani Dhillon, featuring the famous Tu Hi refrain, has just dropped. Hours before, I was in a texting flurry with Shivpreet Singh, whose newly released Shabad, Darshan Dekh, guides the virtual Sangat in reflection during this joyful festival. He reminds me to join him for his Saturday morning meditation on the theme of spring. As I search for his meditation on YouTube, I stumble across Tarun Kaur's contribution to Vaisakhi, an animated Kirtan sing-along for children of a Shabad that commemorates Guru Gobind Singh, Vah Vah Gobind Singh. My eyes and ears are filled with these offerings of Kirtan, some that I imagine have come straight from the times of the Gurus, as well as others that are new renditions, innovated in the digital realm.
Beautiful.
And this really happened.
Yeah. So you see, this little paragraph tells you what the book is about. It traces the historical origins of Kirtan and how the practices were, and then it ends in how is Kirtan being practiced right now? How is Kirtan being done? And it follows a few musicians. So this is really a book about the now. You know, how is Kirtan being done now, and what are the changes, and how are we living the Kirtan that we're doing? So it's a very exciting book, and we'd love to do more with you, and I'll share some ideas as to what we might do in the future with you. Um,
Vijay, I just have one comment to add, just
Please.
the last. Gurminder ji, just imagine, because Shippreet Virji was doing this very soft, beautiful very different way of kirtan without percussions. The first time I heard somebody not using a percussion, just a flute and his, keyboard. And I discovered him during COVID when all our family would do his kirtan together, where I would rather use his because I feel I sound a bit if I boast a bit, but then this Kirtan got us together as the seeker and seers. This Kirtan got you to us. So it's all this Kirtan which has connected so many of us. The thread is the Kirtan. How did we connect? How did we, I longed for Shivpreet Virji. I'm sure so many other brothers and sisters would have longed to talk to him. And here we are talking to him every week, which I used to feel is such a privilege. Oh my God, when I will I talk to him? Can I talk to him? All these questions. And now this Kirtan says, no, he's your brother. He's there. I'm just saying the Kirtan is such a, you know, such a beautiful thing. Just
Yeah,
thinking.
that's beautiful.
It's beautiful. I just pasted the last paragraph of the epilogue right here. It tells you what Sarbji was just talking about. How Kirtan connects all of us. It is just amazing, and that's how she ends the book. She says, the Kirtan reflects the richness of humanity through multiple languages, dialects, cultures, histories, philosophies, and geographies that it encompasses. We're all connected through this, so you see how Guru Nanak appears, and he's talking about elements to planets, and we were talking about his Japji Sahib. But you see how Guru Nanak appears through us without us even knowing. Without us even knowing, it's we talk about the interconnections. Anyhow, unless someone has a last question, yeah,
And Jyoti,
Sanjogji, go ahead.
I,
Before Sanjog goes ahead, if there are any last questions, please type them or ask me, and I'll bring you on. If there aren't any, I will ask the last question, and then we'll go from there. Sanjogji, go ahead.
I think it's more of two things. I'm echoing too. I hope that's not disturbing to people. But there's a comment really to say that thank you again. This book is amazing. I got it day before yesterday, and I have gone through the introduction and then peeked into chapter 6 because that was of interest to know. Also, I want to say. You talked about cultures and geographies and religion, music, Kirtan being sort of the connection. Sorry about that. I think it's about senses too. Just again, the book is academic, but so readable. So there's the reading, and there's the scriptures, there's the part. For me, I've never really been so anchored into Sikhi as I'm being pulled in now through Kirtan. Because music, I know, was the vibration, the music was something that was drawing, and now I can see what I was born into through that medium, and I think that's just beautiful. The more and more I read about it, the more and more it connects to me as what moves me, and I think that's the beautiful part of Kirtan is it brings all your senses in, the elements, the scripture, and connecting it to my Shabad Guru from this beautiful group that I'm a part of. It's the Akit Katha, like it's the unspoken word, it's the healing word. And it just really brings me to all of this. So thank you for providing the sort of academic backing also to it, which I'm
Thank you.
really excited to read.
Thank you so much for sharing, Sanjogji. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Unless anyone has any comments or questions, I'm going to perhaps, do you want to hear one of the shabads that I've been working on right now? And then we can end with a question. And before that, I'm going to share a comment from Prerna ji. She says, Kirtan helps me in aligning my way of being. With that, let me just share what I've been working on. Along with Sanjog, we've been working on this Shabad together. Har ki akat katha suno jan bhai. Jit sehsa dukh bhuk sab leh jaye. And here's the Shabad. हर की अकत कथा सुनो जन भाई जित सहसा दुख भूख सब लह जाए. And the words that we were contemplating on this week was this: नीच जात हर जपत्यां उत्तम पदवी पाए, पूछो बिदर दासी सुतै किशन उतरया घर जिस जाए. And that's why we had the discussion on ghar, because I chose ghar to be the word that we'll focus on. But here Guru Ramdas is talking about the, how when the story from the Mahabharata where Krishna tries to go and prevent a war from happening, and in that he ends up visiting the Kauravas who are against the Pandavas, who the two entities that are fighting, and he's related to both of them, so they expect him to come and stay at their palace, the Kauravas, and the king of the leader of the Kauravas, Duryodhan, says, okay, come and visit us, and we'll take care of you, we'll feed you well, we'll take care of you really well. He tells Krishnji, and Krishnji declines. He says, no, I'm going to stay at Bidur's house. And Bidar is this really poor guy. He's son of a servant, but he's very intelligent. He's very wise. That's what Bidur means, by the way. It means a person who has Vedas in him. Vidur, Vidya. And he says, no, I'm going to stay with him. And Duryodhan gets very mad. He's like, you're leaving. Why are you doing this? Why are you torturing yourself? And this is the word he used. Why are you torturing yourself? Why are you going through all this suffering and going to this slave's house? And Krishna answers back, and Bhai Gurdas explains this, the most beautiful line that I think I've found in the past month. He says, Krishna, he says, Duryodhan, I don't come to your house because your house has no love and my house has no suffering. Your house has no love and my house has no suffering. He was saying, hey, why are you going and suffering there? He's like, just like you don't have any love and I don't have suffering. It's not in my dictionary. And love is not in your dictionary. This Shabad is all about love. And I'm so glad that we were talking about this. And it's also about descending to love. Neech jaat har japteya. You don't have to have all the you don't have to have all the wealth in the world to love. You don't have to be a non-academic to have love. You can be an academic and have love. You don't have to have social media and 100,000 followers to have love and write about music. It's all about love. Gobind bhav bhagat ka bhukha, concludes Bhai Gurdas, that what God wants is you to have love, and then that's God living in you. That's the love. And I'm so glad that that's what we were meditating upon as we are looking at Gurminder's book. It's all about love. And so much love has poured into this book. So thank you so much, Gurminderji, for writing this beautiful, beautiful book. Thank you, all of you guys, for having all this love. I see there's quite a few of us who've been asking all these questions. You made this session so beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm going to share a couple of comments. There's one from someone who's new to the group. She just joined yesterday. Welcome, Nidhi ji. She says, this is my first time being live at an event. I feel blessed to find such beautiful Sangat and just enjoying my being with all of you. We enjoy having you as well. Normally, everyone gets on and everyone is on video. So hopefully you'll join us on Sundays when we all meet, or you can come to this class, which is the Purpose of Life class, on Saturdays. So welcome to you, and we'll continue this. I have my one last question, like I said. What advice do you give for a young Kirtani, or just a Kirtani in general? If they read this book, how do you hope they see differently? How do you think they'll see Kirtan differently once they've read the book? And I know this is a hard question, so perhaps if not advising someone else, what advice do you give yourself? How do you look at Kirtan differently after having written this book?
Oh my goodness, that is a great and challenging question, Shiv. I don't know if I can give advice, but I would say that for myself, I had a really wonderful question recently, which is who can offer Kirtan and where? And I think that even, as I was saying, in response to this question, that sometimes, I can't always participate in Kirtan Hazri at Gurdwara or Diwan, and I don't always manage to get there in time or something. And so very often my Kirtan is sitting in my room with my Dilruba, and it's just me and whatever around me is listening. And I think that is, even that feeling is really, what can I say? It's healing, it's impactful, it's connecting me, even with the world, even when I'm alone. And I think there have been many times, we hear many Sakhis of the Gurus being alone and in very difficult circumstances, but Kirtan is always with them. And I think in this time when there's, young people especially talk about isolation and loneliness, and I think Kirtan can always be a companion. So I would really like to emphasize that to them, that make a personal connection, whatever you want your connection to be, and always feel that you have Kirtan with you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, it was so nice. I wish we had another 5 hours to talk to you because I'm just getting started. I do want to read this comment and then say something. This is a comment from Sakshi Wadva. Thank you so much for arranging these lectures. Truly love the book. Thank you so much for offering the book to the world, Professor Bhogal. I had already asked so many questions to you earlier, but just a few more. Okay, so we do have some questions. So let's take some of these questions as we go. Can you elaborate on the cave example and the section on Dattatreya?
Dattatreya, yeah. Sakshi, hello, so good to see you again. This is from, I believe, my chapter 3. I can't remember actually, Sakshi, you may have to correct me. This is a wonderful episode from the Janam Sakhis. And Guru Nanak is sent to Dattatreya, who is a saint, one might say, or a holy figure. and Dattatreya is keeping Maunvrat. He is in a, a what we would say keeping silence, so it's a fast of silence, it's a vrat. And Guru Nanak has felt that he must go and speak to Dattatreya and get him out of the cave, back into society, and to be living in the world and to live his life in a way that he's connected and doing things for people in society, in the world, as opposed to staying in isolation in the cave. And this example is about he can keep his live, he can keep the connection to the Divine One by internally reciting the name Ram. So this example is that Dattatreya, he's teaching Dattatreya how to keep the resonance of Ram in his hriday, in his inner being, while still serving others and while being in the world. So this is what this example is, that when Guru Nanak enters the cave with Pai Bala and Pai Mardana, now Pai Bala is also here, in this beautiful scene from the Janam Sakhi, they see Dattatreya lying there, but Dattatreya is silent. But they hear they hear Ram echoing through this cave, through this large gufa. They can just hear Ram, and they're wondering. Bhai Bala is asking Guru Nanak, where is this sound coming from if he is silent? And this is what Anhatnath is, that which is that when you are in that state of deep meditation, jota pad or samadhi, whatever you want to call it, that the resonance is so strong it's pouring out of your body. And this is what this example is showing you, that Anhatnath is not about silence. It's not about a lack of sound. It's about an abundance of sound. It's pouring out of you. That reverberation and vibration is so strong. So this is what this example is about, Sakshi. I hope that helps. And I'm happy to chat more. It's such a